Good morning, everyone. My name is Eugene O'Sullivan. It's my pleasure today to train you on the eFlex product. This eFlex product will allow you to submit your case initiations, your follow-up filings electronically to the Montgomery County Probate Court. But before we begin, I want to bring your attention to your GoToMeeting console. If at any time during the training today you have a question, you're very welcome to type that in to the question box that's available to you on that console. Simply type in the question, hit the send button, and it will flash on my screen here, and I will stop the training and attempt to answer the question. If I don't have an answer, I will follow up with my contact at the AOC and will be able to address that issue for you. Just so you're aware, everyone is muted by default. This provides you privacy on your end, and it prevents audio feedback issues into the room. With that, you may want to have a pen and paper handy just to take a few notes, not very many, and with that I'll bring your attention to the document on the screen. The document on the screen has a URL address in the bolded blue text. You will want to take note of this. This is the website address that you will use to, one, request your user account. Once approved, you'll be able to log in here at this website and access the e-filing system. Now, should you have any problems with database errors or anything working with the product, you are very welcome to contact technical support at the numbers provided on the screen, which are 937-224-3932 or 937-224-3930. Now, if you have any questions regarding judicial procedure with the submission of electronic documents, you can call a specified number, which is 937-225-4561, and they will be able to address the judicial procedure issue for you. Just also, please be aware that any MSC filing coming into probate court will have to be e-filed. And just also, please be aware that during training today, I will be using a training site. Please don't use that URL address. The URL address above is the one that you will be using. The one that I use is a test one, and therefore nobody monitors it, so any account requests would be ignored. With that, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this document. I'm going to show you what the production website looks like in the background here. As you can see, it's a relatively simple screen in that we have the login section on the right side, and we have, more importantly, the request user account button down here on the lower portion of the screen. Now, if there was a problem or a technical outage, they will be able to notify you on this screen here. This area of the screen will give you updates, notifications, etc. With that, I'm going to now switch to my training site. That training site will allow me to do case initiations without interfering with the case management system there in Montgomery County. Let me show you how to request the user account. I'm going to click on the Request Account button. It will present you with a series of screens. The first screen is the user agreement. In order for you to proceed, you do have to accept the terms and conditions of that agreement, and you do that by indicating, I have read, understand, and agree to comply with this user agreement. You indicate that with the appropriate radio button, bottom left corner, and click the Submit button. You are presented with a number of roles that you can use the eFlex product in, and the very first one is an attorney, which will be the majority of individuals today. This role will allow you to file electronically to the courts. Now, there are additional roles, such as Cox Media. I want you to be just aware what that is. This counts as reserved for the Dayton Daily News and is used for the is used to produce proof of publication. Now, the next one down is the financial firm administrator or a financial manager. What this individual will be able to do will be able to log into the system, will not be able to file, but will be able to review the accounts and the charges that occurred to the credit cards within the organization. And lastly, we have the self-represented role or pro se account. So this is what they would use. And with that, I'm going to go and select the attorney role again and click Next to bring me to the next screen, which is Select a Company. Just before I do that, I want to bring your attention on the top line up here. You'll see this throughout the product. This is where we will have access to the previous screens we've come through. You will see that we're on the select a user company. We have select user role and user agreement. And so if we make a mistake, we can always move backwards by clicking on those gray hyperlinks. The title of the screen that we land on is usually in that orange serif font, and so we're on the select a company screen. And the next item down is we need to identify what organization or company we are working with. Clicking on the blank text box or the down arrow will open up the existing companies working with the system electronically. Now I'm going to move down to O'Sullivan Law Firm, and I'm going to click on that particular one. Now, if the organization I work for was not listed, I can go ahead and set up a new company account at this point in time by clicking on the new radio button and simply typing in the company name in the blank text box. For demonstration purposes today, I'm going to go ahead and click on O'Sullivan Law Firm again, and so my user account will be associated with this law firm. Clicking next will move me forward in the process, and we finally get to the user account form to fill out. Now, what we are presented here with is a summary of the company we have selected. Again, if we made an error, we would simply just move backwards one screen by clicking on the hyperlink above at the top, select user company. Now, my name is populated and my password is populated here automatically for me because my browser has remembered this. But your first time coming in here, you will see that these text boxes will be blank for you. Anything with an asterisk is required, and the password is required a second time for confirmation. First name, last name, and bar number are required. An email address is required, and this email address, again, is required a second time for confirmation, but the email address will serve a couple of purposes. The first purpose will be to let you know whether your account was accepted or rejected. And secondly, any notifications and updates to your cases, a courteous email notification will be sent to you on those updates. Finally, for any receipts for payments made on the system, will receive a courteous email receipt as well as an online receipt. Please note, underneath the confirm email, there are two additional alternate email boxes. Just want to let you know what those are for. Should you require any other individuals to receive updates to your cases, you will be able to enter their email addresses in here. Now, if you needed more than two, you'll need to contact your IT department, have them create a distribution list, include all the individuals in that distribution list requiring updating on your cases, and in turn, the IT department will give you an email address. Popping that email address will ensure all those individuals will get updated. Finally, there is a section at the bottom. You can use the defaulted company address if the company was already set up, or you can use an address here with your own personal information if you so wish. Finally, at the very bottom, we have a cancel button and submit button. The cancel button will erase everything and bring you back to the login screen. The submit button will start the approval process, and you will have 1 to 2 business days for them to approve. If you haven't heard back within that period of time, please go ahead and contact the telephone number that I gave earlier. For those individuals who arrived after I mentioned that, I just want to go back to that particular screen for that individual. Technical support can be located here. I'm highlighting the telephone number, 937-224-3932. And they will be able to help you with as to the reason why your account wasn't accepted. With that, I'm going to click cancel here to bring me back to the login screen. So let's assume I've received the email that confirms that I have had a successful account creation with the username and password that I defined, which probably would be a good idea to record. And I'm going to log in with that information. And that login process will bring us to what we call the home screen. I'm going to get my highlighter working here, and I'm going to identify some of the components on the screen. Top right-hand corner will always identify who you're logged in as. Obviously, support staff cannot have their own account. They will need to have access to the username and password that the attorney created in order for them to submit filings to the court on behalf of the attorney. Now, if you represent multiple attorneys, this will always easily identify who you're logged in as, and just be aware that any filing submissions under this particular account will automatically be associated with it. Moving over to the left side of the screen, you will see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 access buttons. These buttons are up here on the front of the screen for you because they're the ones that you most frequently use. Now, I want you to be aware that those 5 buttons are duplicated. They are duplicated under the options or menu items at the top under eFile and Cases. eFile deals specifically with filing statuses and filing submissions to the courts. And what we're going to do in today's training, we're basically going to go through all of the options under eFile and all of the options under Cases. Cases deals with electronic cases that you're already associated with. And we can pull up case histories, notifications on the cases, and financial charges on the cases. Now, sometimes you'll see a numerical value next to the buttons on the screen. If you do so, this warrants your attention in that there is an item that's pending your review. And in this case, I have the number 1 next to the notification button, indicating that I have an unread notification and that it's pending my review. Now, sometimes you will have a numerical value next to my filings. This would indicate that there has been a problem with the payment or submission process of a filing to the court. This text line that I have underlined will change to indicate that there is something that needs your attention, and so that will change to help you address the issue. Again, the numerical value here next to the draft filings will just remind you that you have incomplete filings. So the term incomplete filings and the term draft filings are synonymous. Therefore, we'll talk about those in a little bit more detail in just a few minutes. So let me go ahead and clean my screen. And let's talk about the logging out process. I just want you to be aware of how that works. There's 2 methods in logging out. One's automatic, the other one is manual. The automatic one occurs after 20 minutes of inactivity, and what's actually classified as activity in the product is clicking on these dark, I guess it's dark blue or navy blue buttons on the screen. Every time you do so, you interact with the court server, and that lets the server know that you're still there. If you fail to do that, the system will detect that you haven't been in contact or in communicating within 20 minutes. It will automatically log you out as a security measure, but when you attempt to do anything on your screen, even though it hasn't changed, it will request that you log back into the system again. Now, to manually log out, you'll simply click the words log out, and it will start a process in the background. The process is one that it will check to see if you have any incomplete filings or draft filings. And it will present you those filings on your screen. As you can see here, I have 2 incomplete filings. And the system has a question for me in red, and it says, are you sure you want to continue to log out? And I can say yes, and it will log me out to the login screen. Or if I say no, it will actually bring me to the draft filing screen with the assumption that I want to work with those draft filings. Now, those 2 filings that you saw previously are listed here again. And I want to tell you where you can manually go to get to draft filings. Since it's a filing issue, you can go under eFile and click on draft filings. This will bring you to this screen. Now, in the draft filing screen, I'm going to identify some of the column headings that are important. First of all, you'll notice that the column heading is sorted on the one with the slightly lighter color background with a down arrow. So we are actually sorting on the filing date. Throughout the product, all column headings are sortable. All you have to do is click on them to change the default sorting column, and then click on it multiple times to sort the column ascending or descending. Now, so we record the creation date of the incomplete filing in that particular column. The next column furthest to the right is the days until deletion. I want you to be aware that you have 60 days from the date of creation of the filing to complete the process of sending it to the courts. If after the 60 days you have failed to do that, the system will automatically delete the filing from the system, and you will have to recreate it from scratch again. Now, any deletions on the system are permanent in that there is no undelete feature. You will have to recreate from scratch. You can manually delete these incomplete filings here, if you so wish, by clicking on the check boxes on the left side and clicking the delete button at the very top of this screen. Now, should you wish to continue working with a particular filing, the filing description column has blue hyperlinks in that particular column. This will allow you to pick up where you left off in the filing and continue on with the process. Let me clean my screen here, and let me show you how to get back to the home screen. To get back to the home screen, we will click the word home that's directly above the words draft filings. This will reorientate ourselves back to the beginning. And so you can do this anytime during the process of working with the product. And what you'll begin to understand is that the product is a series of screens, and each screen has its own individual functionality. And as you work with the product, you'll become familiar with those. And so today's training is exactly that. We're just going to go through the screens. So we're dealing with my profile here. This is nothing more than a summary of the user account that we have created. You can see the username, etc., and contact information that we created. If you needed to modify that information, update your contact information, etc., click on Modify User Profile. It will bring you to a similar form, similar to what we filled out, but there is one section I want to bring your attention to. Of course, you are required to receive the compulsory notifications. However, there are some notifications regarding rejected filings, approved filings, and receive filings, which you do not have to receive the emails. To turn off those, you'd simply click the check boxes next to the highlighted area, move on down to the very bottom of the form, and click the Submit button to update the changes to your account. I'm clicking the Cancel button, moving backwards again to the user profile screen. You can change the password from here by clicking on Change Password, or you can change the password from the drop-down menu as well. Now, at the very bottom of this section under your user account, we have the wallet accounts. Now, these are credit card accounts that I have created. And to create a wallet account, you'd simply click the Add button at the bottom of the left corner of the screen. It will then ask you for the information regarding the credit card, and you'll save that information. When we're going to do case initiation, these two wallet accounts will be presented to me on the screen, and I will have the opportunity of selecting either one of those. With that, we just want to bring your attention to the login history. So I'm up at my profile, clicking on login history will change the screen. And what is recorded here is we will record all of the successful and unsuccessful or denied statuses on the logging in process. Now, this is a security measure. If anyone was attempting to use your account without your permission and was guessing your password, you would have a lot of denied statuses. As you can see here, I have a few here. I had trouble last night trying to get things going, and so therefore I had put in the wrong password, and therefore I got recorded here. Now, what's important here is the column furthest to the right, that IP address. If that IP address is internal to your company, the IT department will be able to identify the individual who was using it at the time stamp on the furthest left column. However, if the IP address was external to your company, the IT department can identify who owns the IP address, but not necessarily the user using it. That would have to come from the third-party company's IT department. At this time, I'm going to click Home one more time to reorientate ourselves back to the home screen, and I'm about to start a case initiation process. However, I'm going to address some of the document preparation issues that you will encounter. So I'm going to show you how to sign documents electronically without having to print them out and physically sign them and scan them back in. This will save that laborious work, and as you can see here, I have an example in the table on the right side and the 5 components that will deem the document signed for you. Where the handwritten signature would reside for the eFiler, which would be the attorney, you would type the individual's name. You'll proceed with the /S/. This indicates the signature for the eFiler, in this case Rose Cornflower, and directly beneath that area you will retype the individual's name again. You can state the attorney for the defendant, for the plaintiff, and then you can include a postal address, email address, and the state bar number of the eFiler. This will then deem the document signed. Now, if you have a multi-party document where the other parties signing the document are in agreement with the terms and the conditions of the document, and more importantly, you have their permission to do so, you can actually sign the documents electronically for them. And two examples there for Jane Doe and Sam Spade, where their handwritten signatures would reside. You'll type their name. Again, proceed it with that /s/, but you must include the term by permission after their name to deem the document signed for them. Now, with regards to the files that we submit to the courts, the requirement is that we submit the documents in a PDF format, mainly because of two reasons. A PDF document, which is Adobe Acrobat, is a finalized document, meaning the contents are very difficult to change. And also, the PDF documents look identical on Mac machines as well as PC machines. However, we do have an exception to the PDF rule, which is with regards to proposed orders. For a proposed order to be signed by the judge or the clerk, it needs to be editable. And so, as I mentioned, PDFs are not easily editable, so you cannot submit proposed orders in a PDF format. The only formats that you're allowed to submit them in is the highlighted formats, which are Microsoft Word, the older format of DOC extension, or the newer extension of DOCX. Now, with regards to PDF documents, you will not be allowed to submit a locked, encrypted, or form-fillable PDFs. These are not allowed basically because they will not allow a timestamp to be placed upon the first page, and I'll show you the timestamps later on. And it also will result that the filing submission will be rejected by the clerk. So to save yourself heartache, please note, locked, encrypted, form-fillable PDFs are not allowed. Now, we do have some scanning limitations and document size limitations. With regards to the document size, the maximum size a document can be is 3 megabytes. If you have a document larger than that, you will need to split the document. In splitting the document, you will need to identify the parts of the document, such as let's say, terminology, notice of case association, part 1 of 2, notice of case association, part 2 of 2. And just so you're aware, the most we can send at any one time to the courts is 30 megabytes. So you can send as many electronic documents as you want. They go in 30 megabyte chunks to the courts. The maximum size those documents can be is 3 megabytes. Now, with regards to scanning documentation, please be aware that they would like you to scan the documents in black and white at a resolution of 300 dpi, which is a setting you can place on your scanner. That 300 dpi will give you a sharp image. It will keep the document size on the smaller side, and it will save space on the court servers. Now, they would like you to submit those scanned documents in PDF. And so the newer scanners will scan directly to the PDF format. Older scanners do not. There is an exception to the black and white rule, and it's simply this. If the color of the exhibit is vital to your case, you are very welcome to scan in color. Now, the very last portion here I need to talk about is the metadata removal and electronic redaction of electronic documents. If I do not have your undivided attention, it would certainly be to your detriment if I don't. Let me explain what metadata is in terms of electronic documentation. When we work with electronic documents, we will make edits, comments, changes, deletions to those particular documents. And sometimes we're under the false assumption to think that if we remove it from the front screen of the document that we see on our computer monitors, that it's actually removed from the background of the document, and that is incorrect. Any changes, comments you make on the screen will be still in the background of the document. Now, this would be a detriment to you if you were to make comments on case strategy on your documents and deleted those comments before sending the documentation to the courts. If you sent the document without removing the metadata, you have inadvertently sent that comment to the court, and you also have sent it to opposing counsel, and if they have a savvy user, they will be able to extract that information. So they may get an unfair advantage over you in the case. To mitigate that situation, you will need to remove the metadata, and that is done in the following manner. Now, many of you work with different word processor editors out there. You will need to go to the help section, which is usually the F1 key, type in the keywords metadata removal, and that will give you the instructions on how to scrub clean your documents before submitting them to the courts. Okay, with that warning out of place, I just want to give you another warning regarding electronically redacting a document. Sometimes you will have utilities that will allow you to electronically redact portions of a document. If you decide to use that utility, please be aware that it not only removes the information on the screen, but it also removes the information from the background process. Therefore, what that means to you is you should never electronically redact the original copy of a document. Otherwise, you will lose the information. To avoid that situation, you will need to make a copy of the original document. You will remove the metadata in that copy, and then you will electronically redact the portion you wish to redact. The resulting copy will be the copy you will send to the courts. With that, we're ready to start our case initiation. Moving back to the home screen. To initiate a case, it's a filing process. So I'm coming over under eFile. You can see the choices I have as new cases, existing cases, my filings, and draft filings. Obviously, we're going to click new cases, or we could have clicked the new case button on the screen. Both will accomplish the same task. Let me give you an overview of what the case initiation process is. Basically 4 steps. First step will be to define the case category, the case type, and add the participants to the case. The second step will be to add our supporting documentation, which is basically the core of the training. The third step will be to review and approve the filing, and because this is case initiation, we will have to go through the process of payment, and once that's completed, it will be sent to the courts. Step 4 will be to verify that it actually got to the courts, and how we do that is we determine whether a timestamp has been placed on the filing submission electronically, and I will show you how to do that. Once we have that done, we will have completed the case initiation process. So right now I'm going to click on the miscellaneous category, and it will present me with the case types. Now I'm moving on down through the list here. I'm going to go down and do a case type of sale of real estate estate. Clicking on that will then bring me to the case initiation portion where we're adding the parties. You will see here that we have a summary of the case type that we've selected. If this was incorrect, how I would remedy the situation would be I would go up to the gray hyperlinks up here and click on case type so I could re-choose a new case type. Since this is correct, I can move on down to the next line. The next line is the client number, and this is not a required field, and this field is not recorded by the courts. This is for your convenience. If you have an internal reference to your client, you can put in that internal reference, and that will stay with the case, and any charges incurred on the case will be easily appropriated back to this particular client number. And I'll show you how to do that towards the end. Now, next step down is to add the participants, and so I'm going to add the participants here. You'll notice that there's 2 buttons to the right of the highlighted area. Clicking on these buttons will open up electronic forms for me. Filling out the electronic form and saving that information will deposit it here in this screen. It will get deposited above these buttons at the bottom. Clicking Add My Parties will open up the plaintiff form. And but before I start on the plaintiff information, I want to come over to the right side of the screen and inform you about the co-counsel that can be added here. Attorneys representing this participant will be listed here. You will see that my name at the top right-hand corner has automatically been added to associate myself with it. You can see my last name and bar ID number. You also have the opportunity to add the last name, the Supreme Court number, and obviously the bar state here is static, so Ohio is already selected. Clicking the Add button here will take this information and deposit it directly underneath O'Sullivan's name here, and you will have a red X over here on the furthest right side to allow you to remove the association if you have entered the last name or ID number incorrectly. Moving over to the left side of the screen, we're going to go ahead and add the plaintiff information. And as you can see, any field with an asterisk is required, and the only required field on this particular form is the last name or business name field. So let's type in the last name field. Now I've already done a test case, so I'm going to put in the plaintiff's name as Lending Tree. Moving on down through the list, we can put in a telephone number, if we so wish, or an address line. Putting in the address line will be Dayton Street, Dayton, Ohio, with a zip code. And with that, I'm moving on down further on the form. If the mailing address or PO box is different from the address above, you can enter that different address in here in this section. With that, you will notice that we have two buttons at the bottom. A back button will erase everything and bring me back to the previous button. The next button will save everything and deposit this information into the previous screen. So I'm going to save this by clicking Next. And as you can see here, we have the lending tree listed here. Now notice that the plus symbol next to the left side of that I have clicked on, and it presents me with the contact information, and it presents me with the address here. I also want you to be aware that the words lending tree are a blue hyperlink. To get access back to that electronic form, click on lending tree and you'll be back to that form, and you can update contact information if you need to. One column further to the right is the type column, and so the system electronically identifies lending tree as an electronic plaintiff in the case, and if this is correct, we can move ahead. The column furthest to the right will list the attorney representing this party. If we had added co-counsel, they would also be listed here. Now, back over to the left side of the screen, you'll see a red X. If I made a gross error in adding this plaintiff to the case, I can remove lending tree from the case by clicking that red X. And I just want you to be aware of what the icon next to the red X is called a clone icon. And what this will do, it will basically clone the information of lending tree into a new electronic plaintiff form. And the reason why you would do that to expedite adding a plaintiff is if the plaintiff that you're adding had similar co-counsel information, it will fill out the form with lending tree's information. You would remove lending tree's information on it, but co-counsel would still be listed. You can also use the clone icon if the participant name of a plaintiff was similar. If you had a husband and wife situation, you could have all the contact of the information would be the same. Then you could have another plaintiff listed really quickly and make the minor edits. Now, if I needed to add an additional plaintiff to the case that was not similar to lending tree, I can click on Add My Parties again, and that will open up a blank form for me to fill out. Now, to add the defendant, I'm going to click on Add Other Parties, and this then will present me with a similar form, and I'm going to go over to the left side of the screen. The last name is White, and the first name is Mary. And so I'm putting in those in the proper boxes. And with that, I'm going to come down and put an address for Mary. And with that completed, I can go down to the very bottom and save this information and deposit that back into the previous screen. So now I have a plaintiff and a defendant in the case. And I also have a button at the very bottom called Save to Draft. Now, we talked about the draft forms earlier. This will indicate the opportunity for us to back up our information. So from this point forward, we can back up. And also want you to be aware that every time we click the next button, it's backing up your information for you. So we've completed step 1. We're moving to step 2. And step 2 is the core of the training here. And this is where we're going to be adding our documentation. Now, under the document category, you will notice that we have a blank one, which is highlighted in blue. We have land sale, new land sale estate, new land sale guardianship. Clicking on these categories will change the document type selection here in the text box beneath the category. And this is important because of all of the electronic documents that are available to you on the system, you can select from these drop-down areas. Now, because I'm doing a land sale estate, I'm going to click on that option, and what you'll notice immediately that it filters that rather long list into a very short list for me here. Now, the appropriate one that I am going to select is the complaint, and if I had any additional text to add to clarify the complaint, etc., there is an additional text line I can place that text in. These two will get joined up together to create a document name, but it's not compulsory, so you don't have to do this. And so the system on the next line will prompt you for the correct file format. Now, we talked about file formats. The system wants a PDF document for the complaint. So I have prepared my documentation. I need to find that documentation. To locate the documentation on my computer, I will click the Browse button. And clicking the Browse button, it will open up my file manager. And I have my complaint listed here. I have created it into PDF document. So I'm going to click on that option, and I'm going to click Open. Now, you can double-click on the file itself, and all that does will put in the reference to the file. So you can see here, next to the Browse button, we have reference to the document. But nothing is loaded into the package going to the courts yet. So to get that document into the package of information and filing going to the courts, I have to click the Add button. Clicking the Add button will take that document from my computer, upload it, and save it into the draft filing for me. So what you'll see down here at the very bottom is the complaint, sale of real estate. The physical document is given to you here. You can see and view that document to verify that you have indeed added the correct document. We do need to complete the next column to the right, on behalf of, and the document sizes are listed here. Remember, the maximum size of a document was 3 megabytes. The most we can send at any one time will be given to you here, and the maximum we can include here is 30 megabytes. If we added the wrong document to the list going to the courts, there is a red X on the furthest right column to remove that document. Now, there is another document that was created electronically by the system. It's directly above the complaint. You can see I'm highlighting it here, bottom left corner. The physical document happens to be called form.xml. This is everything we did in step 1. Case participants, court location, case type, etc. All of that information is located in there. If we needed to update any of that information in step 1, clicking on Edit Data icon will allow us access back to do those updates. Now, I'm going to do another document just to reiterate how we do this. Just also want to point out that if we were entering a case, doing a notice of case association, or we're doing an answer to the case, this is the screen we would basically be picking the documents from. So I'm going to click on the word consent. I'm going to browse for that particular consent document. I have it prepared. Clicking on consent twice will put that reference in there. I need to upload it. Clicking the Add button, and as you can see, the consent is now added. If I attempt to move on to the next step, which was to review and approve the filing, clicking Next will generate an error for me. You can see that the red error is generated, and basically the reason why it's generated is I failed to add the on behalf of. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to finalize the on behalf of by clicking in the blank text blocks and picking LendingTree as the plaintiff. Clicking Next now will allow that to move on to step 3, which is basically to review and approve the filing before I send it to the courts. So here we have a summary of the case type. Our filer reference is inserted here. The estimated fee involved in submitting this case is $205. You can, if the wallet accounts that we mentioned earlier are listed here, so those are the 2 wallet accounts with 2 radio buttons to the left of them to choose either one or the other. If you needed to add an additional wallet item with a new different credit card, you can click on Add Wallet Item and it will open up a form for you to fill out. I'm going to select the EOS Visa card with the 1111. And I want to bring your attention to the next 2 radio buttons down at the bottom here. If you were seeking a waiver or a deferment on the payment costs for the filing, you can select those waivers, and the waivers reasons are given there listed. And with that, this would bypass the payment process. So we wouldn't go through any payment processing. It would be just submitted straight to the courts. Now, if you were sending a poverty affidavit that was filed, if it was rejected, you will have to refile the case. Moving on down, I'm going to select the wallet account so my credit card gets charged. The next section down for us to review is the case data. That's everything we did in step 1. If you need to update contact information for the participants, clicking on the Change Case Data button will jump you back to step 1. The documents that we're submitting to the courts will be listed here, and as you can see, the 2 documents that I have manually added are listed there as well. Again, blue hyperlinks for you to verify the document, and if you did need to go back to add that affidavit of poverty, you can click on Add Remove Documents, and this will jump you back to step 2 and allow you to complete that process. Finally, at the very bottom, if you need to instruct the clerk on any special filing instructions, you can do so in this blank text box. This will allow you to communicate with the clerk. Finally, at the bottom, we have a cancel button, which is new to us. This is a complete deletion. Again, as I mentioned previously, all deletions are permanent. If I click that button, I will have to recreate the filing from scratch. The next one is move to draft, which I can do, and come back at a later date and make the payment. Or I can submit the filing to the courts. I'm going to go ahead and click on the submit the filing to the courts. It will give me a warning here. Basically, this is telling me that I consider the filing complete and it's ready to go to the courts. Clicking OK will start that process. Now, because I selected the wallet account, the credit card does not immediately get charged. What occurs is that the amount in question, which I believe was $205, will place an encumbrance on the credit card for that amount. Once the clerk accepts the filing, the credit card at that point in time gets charged. If the clerk rejects your filing, the credit card is not charged and the encumbrance for the amount in question is removed. Now, the last step in the case initiation was step 4, which was to verify the timestamp on the submission. To verify that, we can either go into the My Filings or click the Filing Status button on the screen here. So the system presents this with you to allow you to verify the timestamp. So I'm going to click on Filing Status, and it does basically a search for today's filings. Now, because only one filing has gone through under my account this morning, only one is listed. Everything above the horizontal line is a search area. The system did a search for today's date. Now, you can see that one is populated, the other one is not. The blank one is always today's date. So basically, the system did a search for all the filings between today's date. Anything pulled from the database will be displayed in the lower portion of your screen. And as you can see here, our filing in question with my filer reference number that we typed in earlier on. It has been assigned an ID number under my user account of the number 1903. The clerk has not worked with it or filed it as of yet, so I have no title, I have no case ID number. The time it was submitted to the court server is listed here. And more importantly is the column furthest to the right. You will have a variety of statuses, and on this case, it's awaiting approval. I just want to give you an idea of what it went through while I was talking. First of all, it was package pending packaged. All that means is it's getting ready to send the files over the internet. It gets encrypted, so there's a security level on the information going through the internet. And then once it gets sent is the next status, and then the one after that is received. Now, the received is important because this is when the timestamp is placed upon it, and so the timestamp is when it hits the court servers. It gets decrypted and it's checked for viruses, and if it passes that test, you will see here that it goes into awaiting approval. Awaiting approval simply means we're waiting for the clerk to work with it. I'm erasing all my drawings here. I want to go back to a normal cursor, and I want to bring you into the status. Remember, the last part of the step was to verify timestamp. To verify the timestamp, click on whatever status is listed here in the blue hyperlinks. It will open up the filing status on this submission we sent to the courts. Now, let's talk about the timestamp first. The timestamp you are concerned about is this particular one right here. This is your safe harbor timestamp. If you have any deadlines to meet, this is the timestamp that they will meter you against. If there are no problems with your case, it will become the official timestamp. Now, if and when the clerk will work with this, the clerk will change his or her status up at the top, and this status will change to filed. And this is where you can see their timestamp. Do not confuse the two timestamps. Your safe harbor timestamp is the one down here. Now, as I mentioned, there was a reference under my account for this submission, which was 1903. However, on the clerk system, they have a different number. And so if you are in communication with the clerk with regarding the filing, you will need to quote them the clerk interface ID number. In this case, it's 1616. Now, the documents we submitted are listed down here. And so with this, because we have a timestamp on the date submitted, it means it's at the courts. If it's at the courts, it means it's not in your draft filings. If it is in your draft filings still, you will need to double check and figure out what has happened, because it cannot be in both places at once. Now, to get back to the filing status screen, I'm going to click on the filing status button, bottom left corner, and that will bring me back here. So this completes our case initiation process. I'm going to change the dates on the top here. I want to go back a little ways. I want to pull all my filings from May 2nd. And so what I have here presented from the database on the lower screen is more populated right now. I just want to bring your attention to the file document, second last one on the bottom. Clicking that file button will present you this information here. And as you can see, all the documents are available here. Note that they're in blue hyperlinks as well. The receipt is in there as well. And so therefore, you can click on those blue hyperlinks, download those documents if you so wish, and print them out. Clicking filing status will bring me back to the screen. And I just want to show you how to manage a rejected status. Now, as you can see, I have several of them listed there rejected. The important thing is you need to figure out why it was rejected. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and click on the second one that's rejected. The status, there will be a note from the court. In this case, there is not, but the system can automatically place a reason for it, or the clerk can actually put in a custom reason why it was rejected. And generally, the clerk will reject on for the following reasons. If a scanned image was blurred, they'd reject on that. They would ask you to rescan and get that clear image up to them. If the document was not signed, they would reject on that. If you filed to the wrong case, they'll reject on that. And so those are the typical reasons why the clerk will reject. Clicking filing status will bring us back here. And so basically, I just want to cover the search area at the very top of the screen. We talked about the date range search, but you can also individually search on a filing ID number, which we talked about, which are the numbers under your account that we see down here. We can search on case ID numbers. We can search on filing reference numbers. That would be the internal reference you have for your filer. And you can click on the status of a filing. And by doing that, you will need to click the Go button. This screen will not automatically change for you or automatically pull any information from the database. You do have to click the Go button. And of course, the next button to the right of that is the Clear Search area. Now we've completed the case initiation. Let's go ahead and talk about the case management. I'm just going to take a break from filing. And so we're going to talk about cases. These are the cases we're electronically associated with electronically. Clicking My Cases will bring me up to this particular screen. You can see that I have one case listed in the lower portion of the screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what these blue links will do within that for that particular case. I'm going to click on the case ID number for the civil case of Percy Plank. Clicking on that will open up a new tab for me. This will present me with the history of the case. So what's presented at the top is the case ID number and obviously Montgomery County Probate Court. Next section down will show you judge assigned to the case. And the next section, by clicking that plus symbol next to show/hide participants, will show you the participants as well as counsel of record as well. Clicking on the minus symbol, we can minimize that. And the documents that were submitted to the case will be listed here with the dates to the left of them. Please note that those documents have blue hyperlinks, which will allow you to download a soft copy and again print a hard copy for your records. We can do a follow-up filing on this particular screen to that particular case if we click on the eFile button. And I'm not going to do that, but that would have brought you to step 2 where we saw add a document screen. That's why add a document screen was so important. Let's talk about the service list on this particular case. So the second column from the right, clicking on this will open up the service list. Now, because notifications within the product are considered official, some individuals' attorneys will have received electronic notification on the updates to the cases. So some individuals who do not have electronic association will not receive electronic updates to the cases. For those individuals who do not receive electronic notification, their names will be listed beneath the highlighted area. And in this particular case, both parties have received updates, and then there's nobody listed down there. But if there was somebody listed beneath that highlighted area, you will have to notify them in the traditional manner via paper. Now, any participants listed beneath this area will have received electronic notification and does not require traditional method of service. It's already been done for you electronically. Of course, these parties will receive a courteous email. Email notifications are not official. They are courteous. Simply because while the system can determine it sent you the email, it can never determine whether you actually read the email, the notification or not. Again, we have a search area above this section. We can search on cases that we're associated with. If you're not associated with the case, you will not be able to pull a history on the case. You can e-file to those cases. You can pull the history if you're associated with it, and you can also pull the service list. Now, there is a box furthest to the right here called active or inactive. You can classify the case as inactive if you wish. This has no bearing on the court status. Basically, it just allows you to view them, and you can consider them active or inactive, and you can change the viewing status above by clicking those radio buttons, and it will change what's being populated on the screen for you. With that, going to go back over to cases, click notifications. Remember, I had one notification listed when we came to the home screen initially, and here is the notification. Notification is easily identified as unread because we have a yellow envelope, and we have a text line here in bolded blue text. This will allow us to, that text will allow us to view the notification. Clicking on that will present you with the notification timestamps and the service list at the bottom of the notification. Now this has opened up a new tab, so I'm simply closing this tab, and you'll also notice the documents associated with the notification are again listed in blue hyperlinks. And I want you to be aware that these notifications don't stay permanently on the system. You have 60 days from the date of the filing date to basically download the documents and download the information on the notification. Now, you notice even though I have read it, it's still classified as unread, mainly because support staff can come in here, they can read these, they can download the documents, but when the attorney comes in, he or she then will be the one who classifies them as read. In doing so, click the checkbox furthest left column, click the button that says mark as read. It will change the envelope to a white envelope and a non-bolded blue text. You can still read the notification by clicking on its description. Of course, you can search for notifications on the following criterion. Notification ID or description or case title or case number or court division, and simply putting in the value in question and clicking go will pull it from the database. Filing charges. Filing charges will be listed here. The financial manager for the firm can come in here, view this information, but will not be able to file, as I mentioned previously. We do a date range search. If I go back a little bit further, let's see if I have any more to pull through. So I'm just going to go back to May 1st, and I know they refreshed the database yesterday, so I only got one listed here. And so as you can see here, the amount in question is listed on the furthest right column, the court case number, and if there was a filer reference, which is the internal reference I have placed on the filing, it would be listed here. Now remember, these column headings are sortable, and so for this particular period of time, if I had multiple charges for a particular filer, I will be able to click on the filing references, and it will group all those charges together for that individual. And then I'd be able to appropriate and invoice the client correctly. So this is where you can do that. Now, the last thing I need to do is I need to talk about how to do a notice of case association. And to do that, I will need to find the case that I am not electronically associated with. Please note, when we put in the lettering here, when we're doing case searches, you do need to put it in capitals. And then once we have the case ID numbered in, we can e-file to the case, or we can, because I'm not associated, I won't be able to pull the history of the service list. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually click on the e-file button. And how I know I've actually pulled the case from the database is you'll see that we have a yellow banner at the very top. You will need to verify the case ID number and the case title to ensure you have pulled the correct case from the database and that you are filing to the correct one. And then we will have the different documents listed in here. And I'm going to leave it at the blank one, so I want to see them all. And in doing this, it will present me with the very first one is the Notice of Case Association. Now, if you select this, you will notice that the Browse button is grayed out. We can add additional text if you so wish, but now that the Browse button is grayed out, this indicates that the system wants to create an electronic form for you. You do not have to prepare the Notice of Case Association. To get access to that form, you will click the Add button, and it will ask for some additional information on your behalf. It will restate the case ID number and the title, and it will ask you who do you represent in this particular Notice of Case Association. And I can pick any of these radio buttons to select that individual. And since this case was already created, it would be Tom Jones or Dale Jones. So let's say I represent Tom Jones. Clicking next then will create the Notice of Case Association and the on behalf of here. So you can see here then I can select the party types. So as I said, it was Tom Jones, the defendant, so I'm clicking that one. Clicking next will then allow me to submit this to the courts. I'm doing the review and approve. We've seen this before. If I had a reference for Tom Jones, I can go ahead and put that information in here. This will stay with the case. The Notice of Case Association, and moving on down, special filing instructions for the clerk are in here. I'm going to submit this to the court. Now, we noticed that no payment was required on that, and so there was no payment presented to you. Just want to get a timestamp on that notice. So the Notice of Case Association has gone through. You can see that the status is sending. I'm going to click the Go button. It's awaiting approval now. I'm going to click on Awaiting Approval, and you will now see that we have a timestamp on that particular document sent to the courts. Now, I don't know if you heard that ding-dong in the background, but that was just a confirmation coming from the court that this was submitted. Now, I want you to be aware that the Notice of Case Association is automatically approved by the system, and so once that's automatically approved, I will be able to come back to existing cases. I'll be able to type in that case ID number, 6MSC 00212, and now I can e-file to that particular case, and from the list of the blank one, from the list of documents, I can then do an answer to the case. And then we've been through this before where we can pick up the particular documents. I'm going to grab this test document, upload the document, and send that to the courts. So we've been through it. I forgot the on behalf of Tom Jones, clicking OK, and then because this is an answer, I have to go through the wallet account process, so you can see the payment right there, and I'm sending this to the courts now, and that has been sent to the courts. Now, one item I forgot to show you was basically the timestamps on the documents. Here's an example of a timestamp. You will notice in the top right-hand corner of the document, it will state the court, the date it was e-filed, and the case ID number assigned by the clerk. And so these will be located on the documents in the history and on the notifications. This concludes my training for today. If anyone has any questions, please use the question box on your GoToMeeting console. I will wait a few minutes to see if I've got any questions. You are welcome to leave. I see hands being raised. If you can, I'm going to unmute you for a moment. If you have a working mic on your end, I will unmute you and see if it's working. The first person to raise their hand was Eli. Eli, do you have a question? Okay, Eli, I'm not hearing anything back from you. Even though I have unmuted you in GoToMeeting, you may have a mic issue, or your mic may be muted on your end, and I cannot change the status on that end. You will have to use the question box on the GoToMeeting console to communicate with. Okay, Eli says he doesn't have a mic. If you have a question, Eli, you can very welcome to type it in there, send it to me. Let me try Malia and see if I can talk with her. Malia, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, and the room can hear you as well.
My question is, do we have to set up a wallet account, or can we do a one-time payment?
The only way the payment is processed is through a credit card. And so therefore, you will have to set up a wallet account for a credit card, even if it was just for the one charge. There is no other way to make the payment. Unless you're selecting a waiver. If there was a waiver involved, you wouldn't have to do that.
And then with the wallet, do you keep that information?
The payment information, when you register the credit card information, it is not recorded by the court. It is not kept by Tibeer, the developers of the product. It is stored with a special payment processing company called Heartland. They abide by the requirements of the government and keeping that credit card private and secure.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Eli has sent his question to me here, and I am just going to read that for a moment. Okay, this is a question regarding electronic signatures on the documents, and let me just state out what the question is. It says, how do we file documents that need to be signed by our clients? Do we electronically sign these documents, or do we submit a PDF of the signed copy? I'm just going to bring up that signature document, and for Eli, I'm just going to go back over this, Eli, again for you. Basically, for the eFiler to sign the document electronically, that would be the attorney in question. They can follow this procedure here in the table. Example there is on the right side. On the left side of the, or would be the 5 components that will deem the document signed. So the key here is that the e-filer, the attorney, needs to place the /S/ preceding their name on the handwritten signature line. This then will deem the document signed for the e-filer. But your question now is regarding your clients. How do they sign the document? If there are an agreement with the terms and conditions of the document, you can actually sign the document electronically for them if you have their permission to do so. And in doing so, you will need to type in their name. You'll proceed it with the /S/, which indicates their signature, but you must include the term by permission after their name to deem the document signed. This then will allow the acceptance. So this avoids you having to have them physically sign the paper document and avoids you having to scan that paper document back into a PDF document. So it expedites the process really quickly for you, but you do need to have their permission. Now I have another hand up from Edward. Edward, I'm unmuting you right now. And so if you have a question, if your mic is working, so you're through the telephone, we should be able to talk. I'm going to down everybody's hands just to make sure that I see new hands coming up. So Edward, go ahead and speak to me. Okay, Edward, I'm not hearing anything, so it may be a case that the mute is on your phone and I cannot hear you. Can you please use the question box on the GoToMeeting console to communicate with me? That way I'll get your question. If any other individuals have questions, you are welcome to either raise your hand or use the question box. Okay, no questions have come in so far. I'm going to do one last call for questions. And if I don't get any questions, I will terminate the webinar for everyone. You will hear the automatic attendant indicating that the webinar is over, and it will disconnect my screen and audio from your computer. And if you decide to leave, I want to thank you for your time and attendance and your participation. I really do appreciate that. And I have a question from Eli, and he says, are exhibits filed with the document they accompanied or separately? Very good question. I know that the exhibits can be included in the complaint, so for the first part of your question, they can be included within the document. The next question is whether you can add these manually or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my draft filings. I'm going to pick up my filing here. I'm coming in here, and I'm going to let it at the default of everything. So I'm going to be able to filter down, and if the exhibits were there, we should see the opportunity, and I don't see the exhibits listed here as a separate item. Therefore, Eli, if you would be so kind as to forward me in that question box your email address, I will submit this question back to my contact in Montgomery County, and I will be able to get an answer back for you on that. And the question Eli is asking, it says, will the e-file documents be viewable on the court's normal online document? Again, that's a judicial procedure, Eli, and I'm going to defer that second question again back to my contact. And I did get your email address here. If anyone requires to be CC'd, carbon copied on those answers, please just send that request through the question box, type in your email address, and just put CC on it, and then I'll understand immediately what you want to be CC'd on. You're welcome, Eli. Thank you, too. Last call, then, for questions. Okay, I'm not getting any more questions, so I'm going to terminate the webinar for everyone. Everyone, just want to thank you for your time and attention and your attendance, and I'll wish you a good morning there in Dayton, Ohio.